Hey, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for Access City Council. I'm your host, City of Las Vegas Communications Director, David Riggleman. We're talking dollars on this show. In fact, we're talking about your dollars that make up our city budget, the intricate process of deciding where that money is allocated, and how it ultimately affects all of us who are city residents. Joining us now for this discussion and a whole lot more is our Ward 6 City Councilwoman. You know who it is. Nancy Brune, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, David.
Now, you have a large balloon next to you, and we're gonna explain why in a few minutes. It's gonna be exciting, Councilwoman. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're moving into fall. Something special coming up. We're gonna talk budget and why it's kind of important to us. Councilwoman, Ward 6, that's your stomping ground. You know the area very well. That's your area of the valley. For those of you out there not exactly sure where Ward 6 is located, well, don't worry. We're just going to show you on the map here. If you live in that area with the big 6 on it appropriately enough, then of course you are in the city limits of the city of Las Vegas. And if you're a resident out there, you've been represented on the city council since last December by none other than Nancy Brune. And Councilwoman, today joining us, we have a very special guest. It's our budget director. Her name is Susan Helsley, and she's here. She doesn't have a giant balloon, but she has other props that she's going to show off. Susan, welcome to the program. And Councilwoman, you got to take them out of suspense. Why do you have a giant 2 there?
Well, I'm all about facts and data, and what I want the viewers today to realize is that our budget across all of our different fund accounts is $2.2 billion.
A lot of money.
So hopefully when you see the 2, it'll just stick with you that our budget is $2.2 billion.
And the person responsible for keeping track of all of that, it's a big job, is Susan and her finance team.
And my finance team, yes, David, well, thank you for having me. And yes, we are in charge of keeping track of the $2.2 billion budget. I will say I wasn't really thrilled 2 years ago when I came and the budget grew to $2 billion. I said, can't we keep it like 1.9? It is $2.2 billion now. So thanks again for having me.
Good to have you on the program. I know it's near and dear to the Councilwoman because really, the budget is where it all begins and ends. It's like at our home, in our finances. Our finances dictate basically how we're going to live our day-to-day lives. What's our budget? And the city's the same thing, right, Councilwoman?
Yeah, and I think more importantly, too, the budget should reflect our priorities. And I think we may have referenced on a previous show that, the city did a strategic plan a couple of years ago. We identified 3 key priorities: public safety, economic diversification, and the social safety net. And what I've been pleasantly surprised coming to the city a few months ago, is that our budget reflects those priorities. And so there's a real alignment. And again, it speaks to just the incredible job that Susan and her team has been doing to, make sure that where we're spending our priorities spending our dollars reflects the priorities of our residents.
Right. Also, too, Councilwoman, I know you've talked about this before. When you ran for office, there was a concern we want to make sure that the city's going to be fiscally sound. You've been here coming up on a year almost.
Yeah.
What have you?
Yeah,
what have you
again,
found?
I've been pleasantly surprised. I thought I'd come in and start, marking things out. And the city has a very, very lean, responsible budget. And what I've loved most is that they've put, well, I'll let Susan talk about it, but they've been very fiscally responsible, and they've put away funds so that when, God forbid, we have another rainy day or another recession or like another pandemic, we have funds available so that we don't have to necessarily cut jobs, cut programs. And so it's just been great to see that we have a very strong, I would say one of the strongest governments in our region, great bond ratings, and that again is just all the credits due to Susan and her team for that.
Now, Susan promises that the discussion about the budget is going to be very interesting because seriously, though, Susan, explain to everybody, where does the $2.2 billion come from? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue flowing into our city coffers. Where does it mostly come from?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, David, because the $2.2 billion is made up of several different funding sources. And when we think about the $2.2 billion, it's actually, and I probably will surprise everybody this, it's what we expect to expend over the next fiscal year. The majority of that is made up by our capital funds, and those come from different funding sources throughout. We get money from our RTC funds, we get money from the feds. We also bring money in from our funding sources like our our fund balance every year. So whenever we have excess funds, we try to transfer it over to our capital. Our capital makes up about $750 million that we expect to spend this year on parks, on roads, on new buildings, on all of our infrastructure needs, our roads, everything that we need.
Susan, explain, for those that maybe don't know what a capital budget is, but it's basically kind of, if you boil it down, it's kind of one-time expenditures, right? Like a road project.
Project.
Right. Or
sometimes though, those projects take several years. So we have to budget them in the capital budget to make sure that we budget $100 million this year and $50 million next year, so that we make sure we have enough money over the course of that to make sure that we have to pay for that. And our 5-year CIP, we call it the Capital Improvement Plan. The 5-year plan is about $1.2 billion. So there's a lot of money that flows through the city. Now, what most people are most familiar with would be our general fund, because that's what funds the majority of the city. When we talk about public safety, that's the money that funds our portion of the Metro Police Department. It funds our fire department. It funds our marshals. And anything else that has to do with public safety. So let me think, our general fund this year is about $750 million. And the majority of that money comes from our consolidated tax. And consolidated tax is mostly sales tax. A little bit of real estate tax that comes in, some other taxes, but the majority of it is sales. We budgeted $430 million this year. Now, you mentioned that we like to budget very conservatively. Last year, we budgeted flat to budget. We budgeted $387 million in fiscal year 23. We came in at $428 million.
So more than we expected.
More than we expected.
Unlike the recession, Susan, which was totally the opposite, right?
Well, it was. And I think that's where we really learned our lesson back in the recession, especially you don't want to be budgeting 10% increases, because people will spend up to that. If you tell people that, hey, we're going to have plenty of money, they won't leave money on the table. It'll be, okay, we'll budget up to that. We'll add positions, we'll add programs. Well, then if we don't hit that funding level, then we have to make those really hard decisions.
Yeah.
So both Gary Ameling, who's our current chief financial officer, and I'm his finance director, we share that very similar philosophy. We want to make sure we budget very conservatively. I would much rather go to our new city manager, Mike Jansen, and say, hey, we've got extra money. What would we like to do with it? Other than, yeah, we're going to have to hold some positions open or make those other tough decisions. So when we talk about the budget process, it starts off with the revenues, of course. And we sit down every year with our financial advisory committee and go over what we think the projections are going to be to make sure that we are in the ballpark. We don't want to say, hey, we think it's going to be a 5%, and they're saying, hey, it's going to be a recession. This year, yeah, that would not be good. Not a good thing. And, you know, we keep all hearing about recession. You figure here, we're going to have F1. We've got the Super Bowl coming in. So when we started looking at our consolidated tax revenue, we were very comfortable budgeting it flat from over last year. So last year, I think we came in at $425 million. So we budgeted at $430. So again, very conservative. We're, I would say, 95% optimistic that we will more than hit that target and be above it, hopefully, this year.
So, Susan, since you mentioned F1, the Super Bowl, can you, just for the viewers, like break down how those big sporting events or concerts, you know, Taylor Swift coming, actually affect the city?
Sure thing. So I don't think what people understand it. We have all of these people that come into the city and they're spending so much money. And the room tax, the room rates go up, which brings more room tax into our coffers. They're spending, I don't know how many of you guys went to the Beyonce concert.
$20 for a can of beer.
Yes, exactly.
Not that I drink beer.
Or the $65 T-shirt. I was at Duran Duran, and you know, it's just Duran Duran. It's still $45 for a T-shirt. So we get all the sales tax off that. So whenever we have those big events with that big merchandise and the people eating the high-end food or they're drinking a lot or whatever it is, that just adds money to our sales tax. And that's one of the things that's really keeping us afloat is the tourism and those extra dollars. And also the warehouses that we brought in, the Amazon warehouses, everything that's out in North Las Vegas, that affects us too, because it all goes into the state coffers. It doesn't matter where in the state you are, everyone will benefit from Nevada's sales tax rate rising. And so when people spend more money, we get a bigger portion of it, which is really nice.
Susan, talk a little bit about that. I mean, clearly what you're saying, what we know firsthand here, is just how integrally linked the economy is locally and our budget.
Yes.
If people come and spend money, we're doing well. We have money that we can spend on city programs. If we see a downturn because of a pandemic, because of a recession, it all of a sudden heads a different direction. Hence the reason we want to be conservative.
Right, and that feeds exactly what you were talking to earlier, Councilwoman, about how we have reserves. We used to keep a 20% reserve, which is what the GFOA, Government Financial Officers Association, they recommend that. But we, especially Gary, we started talking when I first came, with the volatility of our tourism industry, it's a good plan to set aside more. So we actually have a target where we want 25% in reserves of our general fund budget, and it's on expenses. So if you look, I believe this year's budget, it was a 27% that we're planning on leaving in reserve. So we have a little bit more cushion that we can then decide, do we want to put it towards more programs? Generally, it'll go into our capital improvement our capital projects, because we always have a need for those.
And again, I think that's amazing. I don't think many other local governments are putting away 27% of their general fund budget in reserves, and it's just kudos to the city.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate that we've had really good years of C-tax money, and we also have folks here at the city. You know, you'll always hear at the government, people will have the use it or lose it mentality. We don't really have that so much here at the city. They understand we need to be fiscally conservative. We budget correctly. We don't try to spend like drunken sailors.
So to speak.
So to speak. You know,
Sure.
we really make sure that if we need to purchase something, we're doing what's best for the city. And I know in our group, we try to be very fiscally responsible. So I appreciate that about.
It's good practice for the city, good practice just in our personal finances
Exactly.
to always be setting something aside for the unexpected. Susan, talk really quickly about where the money goes that comes in. How is it allocated? Councilwoman talked about public safety, and that obviously is a big percentage of where our finance, our budget goes. But
Right.
talk about the rest.
Okay, so like most cities, we're very salary and benefit and personnel oriented. So one of the first things we want to make sure we're doing is taking care of our employees. So we run our staffing plan every year. We talk to the different departments, make sure that we have the people that they need, any open positions, if they're going to keep them. We budget where that needs to be. So that becomes our baseline for our salaries. And then we're looking at where are we at revenue-wise, where are we at for the rest of it? Because we don't budget. A lot of cities and municipalities will do like a zero-based budget where we start over from scratch every single year. Here at the city, we base upon what did you have last year? We might add a little bit for inflation, and then anything above and beyond is what they call an expanded request. And we make sure when those expanded requests come in that they're meeting the city's priorities. Are they public safety oriented? Are they helping to diversify the economy? Are they helping with those social networks and the homeless and the health problems that we're having here? Sometimes, though, I know, like where we work, David, it's hard to justify a new person in finance or communications. How does that really justify how we meet the city's priorities? But in reality, we're all at the city helping to meet those priorities. You're getting the word out about our great programs that we're having and making sure that everybody understands here's what's happening in the city, and here are the things that our public safety people are doing. And in finance, we may be tracking the grants that they're getting to take care of the public safety. So you have to make that connection. So we ask everyone when they put that budget together to make that connection. So the majority of our budget does go towards public safety. And when we talk about some of the other services, they're spread kind of throughout every single department, so they're harder to track.
Isn't it about like 66% or 2/3 of our budget goes to public safety?
It does. Especially if you include what we pay Metro.
Okay.
Because Metro, we pay almost 40% of the Metro charges. So we split it between us and Clark County.
You know, Councilwoman, it's very wise. Obviously, public safety is a concern for the entire community, and that's the council's #1 priority. But the second thing is diversifying the economy. And when you hear about how closely we're linked, our budget is linked to people's spending and their sales tax. Yeah, diversifying the economy so that they're coming here, maybe spending money on more than just tourism. Maybe we're encouraging other businesses to thrive to where people then are purchasing other things as a result of those businesses, so that we're not so reliant on tourism. That's key.
Yeah,
and then healthcare. Obviously, that's one thing that we want to advance here through our medical district and just in general, so that people aren't feeling the need to have to travel out of town or to another community to get the medical care that they need. So, and the budget obviously reflects those priorities very well. Susan, I got to ask you this: as far as where we head into the future, you talked about this. You talked about the advisory committee. So, what is their take? Are they thinking that we're hearing, like you touched on this? We're hearing recession. We're hearing no, we're not going to have a recession. Things are going to be strong here because of the events that are coming. What are they saying? What are the soothsayers? What's their crystal ball saying?
I wish I had a crystal ball. And it really depends upon who you talk about. Because when we met with them last February, no one in that room was saying, oh my gosh, we're going to fall off the cliff and go into recession. It was mostly, let's be conservative. Let's keep our eyes open. Let's not say, oh my gosh, 20%. No, we'll keep it 3 to 5. We opted, I think, for like a 3% increase in our consolidated tax. We just wanted to make sure that we were being fiscally conservative while being optimistic. And even when we just met with our investment advisor a couple months ago. We keep asking him, what do you think? And he's like, it's a weird scenario that we're having right now. We have really high interest rates, but the housing market's still up. And our unemployment rate, even though it's higher here in Vegas or in Nevada than it is nationwide, it's still only at 5%. So it's just an odd, I'm just going, I have no idea. Let's just flip a coin and see what happens. We'll just see. Because I wish, I've never seen an economy like this. And I've been through the recession and I went through I worked for I worked for an investment company that invested in a lot of tech companies back in when the tech downfall. So it's just a strange time. Yeah. So we're just we'll ride it out. We'll do what we've always done and make sure that we have our eye on the future. I know Quinn, who's my budget manager, his thing is he likes to go down to Fremont and see how many tourists we have. Yeah. It's a good litmus test. And he'll come in and he says, it's really hot today, no one's out. Can't help you on that.
Yeah, July might have hurt us a little bit, but we're making up for it now. Yeah. So, Susan, Councilwoman, we have just a few minutes left. Councilwoman, is there anything else you want to make sure that Susan works into the discussion here? Susan, anything else that you want to make sure that our viewers know about our budget that is germane to their quality of life here? Well,
David, I think one of the things that I would just like to assure folks is that we are very, very cognizant that it is the taxpayers' money, and we are very careful to make sure that we're budgeting appropriately, that we're forecasting their funds appropriately, because it affects their lives and it affects the lives of our 3,500 city employees. And that's one of the things that we really want to watch out for. We want to make sure that we're all protected and we're not out, as I like to say, betting it all in black.
Yeah.
Well, I think to your point, what I really like, and I always say this whenever I'm at one of my events in Ward 6, is that all of our events are free. And I think because you've done such a great job being fiscally responsible and conservative and putting reserves away, the city is able to offer the free concerts in the park and free movies and free amenities for our residents. So again, just an example of taking great care of their taxpayer dollars and giving them back into the community.
That is such a good point.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
It
that
really
money is sometimes I think we feel when you have that sense with taxes, well, I pay taxes, but I'd never really see any return from it. Or at least that's sometimes the way we feel. But in reality, to your point, Councilwoman, yeah, a lot of the money that you're putting into the city's coffers through your spending, however it may get there, it does come back to you in some way.
Yeah. In the form of new pickleball courts.
Pickleball courts.
Or dog courts.
Dog parks.
Splash pads.
Yeah, exactly. Free movies in the park. Arts festivals, etc., and or just parks and rec programs.
Oh, we have such great parks and rec. So many parks in this area. I know when I first moved to Las Vegas, I was surprised at the amount of green that we had here. And our parks department just does a great job, and all the different variety of the programming that we do. So And that's all paid for by general fund
Exactly.
for the most part. So.
Well, Susan, great job. Great to have you on the show. I think we made budget really interesting. I think
so.
I hope you think that way, because
Our $2.2
$2.2 billion right there.
Billion
Don't forget,
dollars.
$2.2 billion.
$2.2 billion.
There's your visual
Much to my
dance.
chagrin.
Well, Susan, thank you so much. And thanks again to you for being our guest today, Finance Director Susan Heltsley. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, Councilwoman and I are going to tell you about some great upcoming events in Ward 6 that you might want to put on your calendar. It's right after this.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
There's only one thing that will save somebody's life, and that is naloxone nasal spray. Get 911 on the phone, get the emergency responses there on their way.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Councilwoman Nancy Brune from Ward 6. We have some events coming up that we want to tell everybody about. Seems like you just hit the ground running. You're just right in stride. You're still fairly new to the council, 9 months or so, almost 10 into the job, but seems like old hat for you already.
Yeah. Well, we've got a great events team which helps us put on all the events that we want to, so we cannot do without them.
And I love it because you've created some of your own events here,
Yes.
which is really cool. To the council, we've never done this, but we're having, folks, you ready for this? Dog lovers, listen, we're having Yappy Hour, Happy Yappy Hour on September 29th from 6 to 7 out at Pop Squires Park. And yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, we had about 30 people out last time at Centennial Hills Park with free slushies and for the hot evening. This time, Coffee Religion, which is one of the newest coffee shops in our area, is providing some homemade treats, and we'll bring some other treats. So we're looking forward to it.
Councilwoman, help everybody out. Pop Squires Park is kind of in the area of...
It's right behind Norman Rockwell, behind sort of off of Thule Springs. It's a really cute small park that most people don't even know is there. And it actually has a nice smaller amphitheater, so we're going to try to bring some youth art programming to that park over the next couple of years.
Bring your pet, right?
Yes,
That's the whole point. So,
yes.
A great deal. You can have some great coffee and beverages and bring your dog with you. So everybody will have a great time. Great idea, Councilman. So that's going to be September 29th from 6 to 7 at Pop Squires. And then Movie in the Park. Now, our last Movie in the Park had a little detour because of the weather, but we're back again.
Yep.
This is going to be on Friday, October 13th, out at Centennial Hills Park, the beautiful amphitheater there, and it's Little Mermaid, right?
Little Mermaid, yep. And we're going to have some raffle prizes. I think we're doing a best costume, mermaid costume. So dress up, bring a chair, bring some snacks, and enjoy this great movie.
And did we mention, Councilwoman, it's free. All of this stuff is free.
Yes, yes.
You're talking budget. This is where some of your tax dollars are going for these kinds of things. Movie in the Park, that if you've never been to a movie out there, everybody, that is a great place to see one, because you got that natural amphitheater there. It'll be beautiful that time of year. Nice big screen.
Cool.
Yeah, I can just chill.
And it's just more casual, and the kids can run around. It's just a nice, fun, low-key family evening.
And that's a classic, the Little Mermaid. And then, man, we're getting close to the Halloween time of year, and we're doing a trunk or treat.
Yep.
This is coming up, Councilwoman, October 27th. That's a Friday at Centennial Hills Y from 5:30 to 7:30.
Yeah, we've been doing this for the last couple of years. Super popular. I think we get between 500 and 1,000 kids come through. If vendors are interested, they should contact our office. We'll have vendors come through and also share candy, but it's a great way to get some advertising, and a lot of the nonprofits actually sign up as vendors to raise awareness about their cause as well.
That's
so
great.
last year we had the Poppy Foundation and one of the veterans groups come out and support.
That's great.
So-
That's really good. Also, too, nice, safe environment.
Yeah.
You're not worrying about going to some house you're not familiar with or somebody you may not know or any of that. It's all obviously going to be in a very controlled, safe place to bring your kids.
Yeah, great point.
Plus, if you're spending money on those costumes, you get to use them more than
Yeah.
just once, right? You know, you and I have got youngsters, or mine are all grown up now, but you know, they'd wear it one time. Oh, we got to stretch this out a little
Yeah.
bit, you know. So find other reasons to have you wear this thing. So. And then, Councilwoman, last but not least, we have a shredding event and a prescription drop-off.
Yes,
November 4th. Yeah, yep.
And I will tell you, I mean, these events are so popular. I'm already getting questions like, when's our next shredding event? Because we did one back in the spring. And so mark your calendars, November 4th. And the one we did in the spring only had the document shredding, and you can bring up to 5 boxes.
Right.
But we'll also this time have the old prescription collection, which is so great because it's better that we collect it, dispose of it safely. A lot of people will throw it into their water, you know, down the toilet and not realizing it gets into the water system.
Yeah,
so
goes
please,
back out to the lake, right.
please bring your old prescriptions and your documents. And we're happy to take care of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be, again, Saturday, November 4th from 10 to noon. Also, too, if you're going to bring anything out, folks, the boxes of documents to be shredded, paper clips are okay, staples are okay, but big clips, any other heavy foreign objects in there, metal
like
objects.
the plastic binders, binders, just throw those before you
get rid of
bring them in.
get rid of those, just the papers, and like I say, paper clips and staples. Good. Everything else, don't throw it in there. It just
Good reminder, David.
meshes up the machine. So, and then, gosh, Councilwoman, after that, we're headed right into the holiday season. It'll be Thanksgiving, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. We'll be there for all of it again. It's hard to believe.
I know.
So, and a great discussion. It was great. I thought you did a great job. We have our 2 here again, everyone, for our $2.2
because our budget is
billion dollars. You talked to Susan Helsley, and she gave us the lowdown on where that money comes from and where we're spending it for all of you out there. So, great idea, Councilwoman. Well, we want to remind everybody out there, we always want to hear from you. So if there's something you'd like to share with Councilwoman Brune, you can find her on Facebook and Twitter. You can, which is now X, by the way, if you hadn't caught that. You can also contact her at 702-229-6405 or send her an email. Her address is nbrune@lasvegasnevada.gov. And she or one of her great staff will get right back to you. Well, good show, Councilwoman. We'll have you back in 6 weeks with another update from Ward 6. It'll be here before we know it. And,
Yes.
you'll almost be 1 year in office, and we'll be toward the end of the year by that time. So
We're still having fun.
we are, exactly. I know you are, and I can't wait to see what you bring on the next show. So great to have you here. Looking forward to having you back in
Great
6 weeks.
conversation.
Thank you. And we want to thank you for joining us. Our next Access City Council show begins airing on September 28th with Ward 1 City Councilman and Mayor Pro Tem Brian Knutson. You can now catch all of our KCLV shows on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. And watch for our QR code during the closing credits of this show to subscribe to our newsletter. And don't forget, you can watch us live on the internet at kclv.tv. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time around.